Welcome, everyone. My name is Suzanne West, and I'm very happy to be here with you. I also want to deeply thank Kumar Prasanna and the Fertile Brains for sponsoring this and for inviting me to be here and tell you a little bit about my poetry and read my poems. So I think I'll begin with Kumar asked me to do a little bio, and it's going to be a very little bio. I'll just tell you that I am a poet, a writer, and a professor of psychology. I have been writing poetry since I was a teenager, and the last 6 or 7 years have been really dedicated to writing poetry. And I have a collection called Subterranean Light, and I will be reading some of the poems from that in the last part of this reading. I'd like to talk a little bit about how I think about my poetry. I call my poetry psychospiritual poetry, and I will go into some of why I call it that. I have been steeped in the whole field of psychology since the early 1980s. And in the 70s, I had a spiritual opening and became immersed in my own spirituality and studying philosophy and spirituality and working with different teachers and practices over the years. So spirituality is foundational to my personal life and my professional life. And so the two live together inside me. So the word psychospiritual, really, if I had to say something really predominant about me, it's the psychospiritual. I can't imagine anymore the field of psychology without including a spiritual component feels very narrow to me. That's just me. And spirituality feels incomplete unless there's some kind of psychological understanding. As many of you, I'm sure, know who do any kind of meditation or practices, those practices can open you not only to love and the vastness and awareness, but they can also open shadow material, trauma in you. And that can be very disarming when you're meditating for a while and all of a sudden all kinds of very painful memories are opened up. So that's part of the reason that I think these two worlds fit together beautifully, at least they do for me. So let me tell you about some of the themes and the threads that you're going to hear in my poems. One of them is the whole idea of really seeing clearly, seeing our identifications clearly. I have poems that in different ways point to the limitations of identifying with the thinking mind and the value and the beauty of opening to the boundless wisdom that is at the core of each one of us and learning how to turn there for guidance and for answers to our questions rather than always going to the mind. Another thread in my poetry is that um, I'm I'm cautious about what's called spiritual bypass. And what that means is consciously or unconsciously turning to, let's say, meditation or to the light um, as a way to escape from pain, difficulty, just even the everyday. in the early years, in the 70s, when I was opening up spiritually, I was what I called a light chaser. I was just always wanting to have these big experiences and focus on the light at the expense of being really attentive to my little baby or to the things of the world or different pain that I had. And then thankfully, when I was in graduate school, I was in a transpersonal psychology program, and there was a big focus on spiritual bypass. So I felt very fortunate because I really began to become more integrated and do a lot of deep shadow work in myself. And um, so you're going to see themes like that, the value and the importance and the gifts of looking at the shadow as well as the light and finding ways to see them and feel them and know them together. One of my recent poems is called Light and Dark Are Soulmates. And that's what that whole poem is about, is um, really saying yes to both sides, but not getting overly identified with either side. So finding that beautiful place of yes to it all and seeing it all as sacred and the divine. And one other theme, there's numerous others, but I'll just name one other thread or theme. Um, is the whole idea, which goes with embracing the dark, is looking at adversity of any kind, not only as something that we really need to feel and to face and to tangle with the difficulties of, but also to look at adversity and challenges as containing teachings, sometimes naming them as blessings or gifts. So you're also going to see and hear that theme in my poems. So, with all of that said, I am going to dive in and start reading some poems. These first ones have been written over the last 8 to 12 months, and that will be most of the poems I'll be reading. And then I will also read some poems from my collection called Subterranean Life. This first one is called Ask the Children. Take dictation from the flat stones in the river bed. They speak truth. Attend a gathering of trees. Feel them in communion with the wind. Fall into earth's belly where you can hear her cries. Ask her what she needs. Find the children who brought light and love and pieces of heaven with them. Ask them how we can heal the world pain. Make your way through the shadowy nooks, bends, hideouts of the city. Meet the eyes. Touch the souls of our forgotten brothers and sisters. Welcome their stories. If you listen with your whole being, they will feel deeply held. Converse with dullness, healing, death, earth, war, peace, the underworld, and the infinite. Sink into long, quiet times. Turn towards the scars and stars in your heart. Explore your heart from the inside. Then, when you feel the call, You can help our world with your stories. This next poem is about listening. Listening graces the scars. To listen is to dethrone the never-ending mind. Be led by the silky hushes of sky, the rumming of roots, the blood, the sounds of blood, prose, the tears, and wings inside words, the subterranean mind. Listening delivers us to the vastness at the core of everything. To listen is to love. When I don't listen to you, you become lonely, hollow. I hear anger steaming inside every word and in the spaces between. We have listening wounds. We were dismissed at best. It's not our fault. We need to scream about it. Listen to our words. Let them speak. Listening graces the scars. Listen, feel how our words close when we are bitter. Listen to what's beyond the fortress of thoughts. To listen is to bless. Listen to the other until there is no other. I am drawn to people who hear quiet things. The mountain wants us to listen the way she does. This next poem is pointing to what I discussed earlier, which is the wisdom mind, the boundless wisdom that is at the core of who we are, sometimes called intuition. This is called not knowing. The world pain is pounding on my soul, head on fire with what to do's, fueled by fear and urgency. Can I sit for a while in spacious not knowing? Let love cradle me until the fire is ashes, and I can hear the wise counsel of boundless wisdom guiding me towards right action. I also like to write short poems, sometimes very short. I'm going to read one that is one sentence. Sometimes those are called aphorisms. I heard the word micropoems a while ago and I loved it. So I call these short poems micropoems. So I will read 4 micropoems. Boundless wisdom will shape us into her likeness. If we step aside, take the mind with us, let her take her rightful place. Here's that one sentence poem I told you about. May we share every wisp of grace that finds us. And now 2 about poetry. Poetry is a place where the infinite meets the finite and they celebrate their reunion. This is called poetry. My words are yesterdays until I enter them, and they start rolling in the dirt and cawing with the crows. This next poem is called Space Between. I could fill it with a want, a worry, today's headlines, or I could quiet the beehive of thoughts, dissolve into the vastness, and we could sweeten the world a bit with the honey of silence. Now I have two about love. Love will show us. In spite of us, love will continue to bless and shine into every opening and onto asphalt, metal, and steel. Love will blanket tight fists, stiff bodies, clamped jaws, clenched minds, all the barbs and thorns. Love's light will illumine the pain in our world, show us the wounds that need us. I have been finding, especially in these recent months, how poems about world pain and letting ourselves turn towards the dark, turn towards the sorrow, let ourselves feel it at the same time without getting so lost in it that we become hardly functional, which is also the beauty of where spirituality can come in. And it's part of what helps me from not becoming overly traumatized by these very troubling, harrowing times is being anchored in source. And it allows us to really face the dark without getting swallowed up in it. So this poem is called Can We Be Love? In these troubled times, are we closer to the roots as we witness a shattering of the old, as vaults of dark secrets are being cracked open? Are we at times relieved that scabs are being ripped off, that wounds and injustices can be seen and breathed now? Is our buried grief being unearthed? Do we feel the unspoken laments of our ancestors as we let in the heartbreak of our abandoned sisters and brothers who've been cast out for millennia, who we have cast out for millennia? Is the inhumanity firing us up to love more? Can we show our tails, growl, howl, roar? Let our hearts bleed openly. Come out of hiding. Be real. What about Mother Earth? Can we see our greed and selfishness with raw eyes? See what we have destroyed, what we have stolen? Can we cry for her? Can we help her? Are we able to see our oneness and commit to foster healing? Can we be love? Are we inspired to gather in the streets, at altars, in temples, in shrines, at the sea, to become humble before the divine, serve our sorrowing world? And then I have two more poems that I will read, and before I read some from my book. Be the eyes. Be the eyes that the aching ones can fall into. Offer a portal that is safe, welcoming, safe, that will not bite, hate, not hide, bite, hate, dismiss, threaten. Be the eyes you wish you could have looked. Be the eyes you wished could have looked at the infant you with spacious love, see you as your own person. Ask, who are you? What will you love in this life? Be the eyes you wished could help you build a temple of trust inside your frightened heart. Be the eyes you prayed for that say, I am here. You are not alone. Be eyes that can see in the dark in these harrowing times, that can welcome the tears and fears that are everywhere. Look for the one. Look for the one with bird's nests in her hair, 3 scars she's proud of, uneven teeth, purple ink stains on her hands. The one who will take you down to the basement, show you the hiding places where she played with ghosts, show you the dollhouse she wished she lived in, tell you why she thinks she left it behind, ask you if you think she is strange, the one who wants to talk about rescue dogs, the haunted eyes of the winter homeless, and how one look of love without fear and one $20 bill can warm like the sun. The one who wants to talk about the lonely folks in nursing homes, why poetry matters, how plant leaves love to be touched. Look for the one who knows why we are scared and harm each other, who knows how to be a river and swim with eels, knows where golden threads can be found, and that silence shines and takes care of us. Look for the one who will be drawn to you by the depth of your heart above all else. So now I will turn to my poetry collection that is called Subterranean Light. There is that integration again of dark and light. I'll show you what the cover looks like, Subterranean Light. And there are 7 themes in this book, so I will read 4 or 5 poems from some of the themes. And I have to put on my reading glasses for this. This first one is from the theme of ordinary grace. It's called Faces. Every face the divine, every day, 100 times, we miss our chance. Eyes cast downward, we shuffle along the sidewalk as if we are alone, alone on this crowded street of angels. One of the other themes is called What Illness Reveals. I'm going to read a poem that is about my daughter, to my daughter, and I will briefly tell you that when she was 18, she was diagnosed with 2 very serious life-altering illnesses. And then when she was in her 30s and was in the early 40s, the 5th month of her 4th pregnancy, she was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer and had to have chemotherapy while she was pregnant and a double mastectomy as soon as she had her baby, which all sounds pretty awful. And of course, it was. And my daughter is one of my heroes in this life. She has a very deep, grounded spirituality, and she's part of a wonderful and supportive recovery community. And She constantly sees the teachings of the different pain cycles and difficulties that she's had to face. So, definitely one of my heroes. And this is called You Are Broken and You Are Whole. This morning, you are shining blonde hair, full belly laughing, field of glow. My heart falls into place. I remember you clutching your belly on the cold tile floor in the New York hotel, writhing, burning, silent screams. You needed me to stay back. I have never felt so helpless. Disease is a cauldron, boils us to the core, disrupts, dismantles, strips layers of seeming safety. Disease keeps us in not knowing, stretches us beyond where we think we can go, forges us in its heat, transforms, humbles. You tend to this wisely in your quiet ways. Grace is known to you. Pain and fire the teachers that turn you towards the sacred. I don't know all the ways of your mind or see all the times you fall to your knees, yet it is clear today by your restful smile that you are watering holy seeds and sit cupped in the hands of the universe. And I will read two more poems. This next one is also from the section on what illness reveals. It's called The Light Runs Deep. It's about my mother. The light runs deep. She can barely speak. Sharp lights, piercing beeps, hovering, nurses and doctors. What state do you live in? Who is the president? Mom clutches my hand, her fear ice in my veins. I try to soften, remember the sacred that we are, speak that to her with my eyes and simple words. That's what we have now. When touch, let her transfusion be blood and light. Let the liquid be divine nectar. Let love speak through my heart. May she fully receive it. Let us breathe deeply, surrender to move with life on its terms. And then the last poem here from the book and the last poem in the reading. It's also the last poem in the book. It's called Quiet. When I am quiet as frogs who stop croaking when we trespass their sacred marsh, when I am quiet as a child who is sad in every cell, when I'm quiet as the moment death carried mom away, I become the here of my life. Time, just another thought. So thank you for this opportunity, Kumar, and I wish all of you very happy holidays and many, many blessings for you and your friends and for your family. Thank you.